But all of those who can turn on, I will love to see you guys. And I truly hope, I know Jesus is coming soon. Before Jesus comes, I would love to meet you all again as we used to once a year. It was lovely every October, and I enjoy so much. Before we enter to technical things and to training itself, I do want to share a few ideas, spiritual ideas, because I will be concentrated not only in our structure as IAFC, but also how can we communicate well among ourselves so this structure actually works. Okay, so there are different texts in the Bible that talks about communications. I'm not going to use many of them, but I do want to go to the beginning of everything. In Genesis 1, in chapter 1 and chapter 2, we see God creating us after, I'm not going to go through every single day of the creation, but he created us so we can be together with him and join each other's company. And God visited them to communicate with them, to have a close relationship with them every day. So they had the privilege actually to see God every day. How do we know this? Because in chapter 3, sadly, when Adam and Eve decided not to listen to God's voice, but to listen to Satan's voice, when God came to visit them as every day, they hide from God. Okay, so since the beginning, love God's relationship and communication. Now, friendship, and I'm sure you have close friends. I'm friend with some of you because we have been working together. So I know some of you more than others. But friendship is based in communication. Friendship is based on the way we can express ourselves. And one thing that I love about friendship is that we don't need to choose words to communicate with each other. Sometimes if we work for a company or a structure, maybe if I need to talk with someone beside me or a little bit higher in the organizational level, I need to choose my word carefully so I will not be misunderstood, so I don't get into trouble. So we need to be very careful how I speak to that person or to the other. But in friendship, we don't need to be so careful. Of course, we respect each other, but we can openly express ourselves. Now, we have different teachings from Jesus, and I just want to mention to you one of them. If you remember, he was trying to talk exactly about how we present ourselves to the Lord. And you remember this situation, this story that Jesus told when one of the leaders of Israel, when a Pharisee went to the temple, and Jesus said he spoke with himself. He was like praying, and he's saying, God, thank you because I'm so good. I'm not like other sinners. And this person present everything he did so good. And then Jesus said, but a sinner came, someone that recognized his reality, and this person didn't even want to look up. He was like hitting his chest and saying, confessing, Father, please forgive me for my sins. I cannot present myself to you as I am, but I trust that you will love me. I'm paraphrasing, of course, the communication. And Jesus clearly says that this so-called sinner went home forgiven because he truly communicated with God openly. Now, in Hebrews chapter 1, in verses 1 and 2 is very interesting how God tried to improve his communication with us. And I will read verse, or maybe if any has a Bible, or it could be the actual Bible, like I do here. Ooh, because I have the background, you cannot see my Bible. It's in Chinese and English. I will read in English though. My Chinese is not so good. But if anyone can help me reading Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. Just unmute your mic, whether your camera is on or not. And please help me reading.
Hebrews
Yes, Brother
chapter
Brown.
1,
Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, please.
1 and 2. God, who at sundry times and in divers manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. Amen.
Thank you so much, Brother Brown. So I like the way, I believe Paul wrote this letter. He says that long ago, many times, God spoke to us. And I'm bringing in a different language, but the idea is here. God spoke to us many times, many ways, through the prophets. Okay, through the prophets. But because many prophets were misunderstood, or the message people did not clearly understand, they were not fully comprehended God's word, God decided to send Jesus himself, so there will be no noise in communication. I'm not an expert in communication. I study a little bit about communication, and of course we have the one speaking, and then we the one hearing the message. Now there could be different problems in the process of communication. It could be any kind of if the language is not the same, so that we have a miscommunication, it's a noise. It could be literally noise from somewhere else. Here in the computer, if your connection is not stable, so there is a problem there of communication. So God wanted to talk to you and to me, and the clearest way he could do it was through Jesus. And Jesus, came for many reasons. Of course, he came here to die for us, to rescue us from sin. But also the Bible says that Jesus came to undo all the wrongdoings, all the bad things that Satan did and made us do. And another reason why Jesus came here, it was to reveal the Father as he really is, because through so many generations, God was misunderstood. So many people were afraid of him, could not comprehend. So Jesus came to reveal the Father. So we see in the Bible, and we actually have the Bible because what God wanted to have a clear communication with us. When we have miscommunication, misunderstandings, problems arise. And I'm sure you had in China, most of you live inside of literally China. I am in China, but in Hong Kong, which is becoming more and more China. And if I don't speak Cantonese, I can speak some Mandarin, but I don't speak Cantonese. I try to speak Mandarin with people here, and many of them don't like Mandarin, or their Mandarin is not so good because they only speak Cantonese. So it's easy not to be able to communicate well. And when we don't communicate well, when misunderstand each other, then we cannot reach an agreement so easily, or we can actually end up not fighting, but disagreeing and not being able to achieve what we wanted to achieve. And Satan knows this, knows how easy it is to break things up. So he will try any way to affect us, separate us, because we cannot reach an understanding. Now, I do like, and I know you know these texts very well. It's in Isaiah chapter 6, and Sister Anna mentioned it at the beginning. It's kind of our one of the most special texts that we have for the logo I will go, or for the theme of our church, I will go. And I will need someone else to help me reading Isaiah chapter 6. And I will ask someone to help me reading verse 8. We could read more, but we will just read Isaiah chapter 6 verse 8. So if you have it, please unmute your mic and
Isaiah
share with
chapter
us.
6, verse 8 says, "Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, Here am I, send me."
Amen. Isaiah chapter 6 is a beautiful chapter, very interesting chapter. Isaiah was able to actually peek into the glory of God, and he recognized immediately through this vision that he was doomed because he was a sinner. So God purified his lips, and then God said, I have, and once again I'm trying to bring the idea here, I have an important message. Who can deliver this message? And what I like about Isaiah, he didn't hide from this challenge that God gave him. He didn't say, okay, send someone else. He said, no, here I am, send me. Now you are in China, of course, studying or working, but specifically you're in China because God brought you there for a mission. And through this training and through your study and your work, God wants to use you to reach others. And that's why it's so important to establish a very close communication channel with God. And one of the best communication channels that we have is prayer, is the gift of prayer. And without prayer, we will be so alone, right? But through prayer, we can establish a direct line through God. There's never low battery. There's never lost signal. Through prayer, we communicate. And as we come close to him, Ellen G. White says that the closer we get to Jesus, the closer we get with one another. The closer we come to Jesus, the more likely is that any problem that maybe separated us before, because we get closer to Jesus, he will eliminate. The Holy Spirit will cleanse us. And that is the experience that in the Pentecostes, the disciples had. Before receiving the Holy Spirit, they were able to reestablish and communicate and ask for forgiveness. And then the Holy Spirit was poured fully. And these simple men, many of them fishermen, and some others, the tax collectors, and others were kind of extremist, Simon the Zealot. So none of them were perfect, as we are. None of us are perfect. But if we establish this communication, if we accept God's communication, then God will fulfill in us his plan. God will fulfill in us his purpose for your calling. And when I say your calling, is because many of you have been chosen by God through the nomination committees to lead different departments or different ministries in IAFC. Okay, so I truly hope that in this context of God's word talking to us through Jesus, through prophets, through the Bible, through prayer, we can be united with him and fulfill once again the purpose that he has for us. I want to pray so we can never close the door of our mind or heart, so God can communicate with us, and then we will start with a more technical part of our meeting this evening. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your love. Thank you so much because you care. Thank you so much because even though we are sinners, Jesus died for us. And thank you so much because we As Adam and Eve, many times we hide ourselves from you, even though we cannot hide ourselves, but we pretend or we run away from you, and you're still searching for us because you want to reestablish the communication channels. You want to reestablish the sharing. You want to reestablish the friendship and loving care because you want to save us. And as we start this special week of training, talking, learning, deciding, sharing, we ask you to please be with us, talk to us, show us. And if we need to improve different things, do so, please. And many of our friends here, many of the kids they're joining, many of the young people that you have chosen to lead IAFC this coming term, I want to thank you because you have chosen them and you will enable them to do the best they can, not for men, not for glory, personal glory or honor, but so people can see our good works and they can glorify you, Father, because of our work. We don't want to get any praises from anyone. We want everyone to recognize that we are your disciples. And as we learn together, and as we speak different technical things and we answer questions and we share with one another thoughts, help us to grow together. So as we learn, we can work better for you. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, Anna, I will need to be able to share. You know, if you're ready. Yes, great. Before I share, I just want to say something. I will be sharing my screen. I prepared a very simple PPT, but I will be sharing and stopping sharing because I do want to have some feedback. Okay, we will have at the end a Q&A section, and as Sister Anna said, if you have any question, please type them, send it to her or send it in the chat group, and I will try to answer. I don't have all the answers, I don't know everything, but I will try to do my best. And we have Pastor James, by the way, he's our leader from the union. You will know him better on Sabbath because he will be the preacher. He can help us if we have any questions, Sister Anna, myself. But the idea is not like us teaching you, but learning together. Okay, so I will start, before sharing, I will start with this idea. We know that China is a special country. You know that China does not allow to have the structure, the church structure functioning as we are used to in our home countries. I know many of you are from different parts of Africa. Some of us come from different parts of Asia, like Pastor James, or from Europe or from America, like myself, South America. But our church distinguishes itself from many other denominations is that we have a very clear structure to work well. And my idea today is to bring from what we know from the world church to us, China, and how IAFC is somehow organized in a way that resemble or what we have in the rest of the world. Okay, so we all know that the base or the strong part of the Adventist Seventh-day Adventist Church is the local church from the community. Okay, so the most important part of our church is each local church, which you belong to one of them. In China, we call them fellowship. Maybe your fellowship gathers in a venue of a Chinese church itself, and they let you use maybe a room or a place. So that is the bottom of the structure, from what the organization of the church builds up. Now, to make the work of all the churches in different regions work better, we gather a number of churches in associations or a conference. Okay, so maybe by a region or by a province or by different geographical place, we have the conference, which is an association of churches. Now, and I'm sure in your country you have many conferences. And then when we gather all those conferences to help grow in a better way, we have a union that unifies those conferences. Now, for example, here in China, we have only one union, like with the name union, and only one conference organized as a conference itself, which is the Hong Kong Macau conference. Now, in China, we do have conferences, but the Chinese churches, but they are not still so well communicated with the rest of the world as we are used in our countries. Okay, and then when we have by big regions, unions, we have a division. Now we have 13 divisions around the world. Once again, the purpose of this meeting is not to bother to confuse you, but this is how we are organized. And then the 13 unions, divisions respond to the General Conference. Now, we might believe that the General Conference has the last say in everything, but no, the local churches actually have the last say in this sense. Every several years, delegates from the local churches, conferences, unions, and divisions gather together to decide what the church has to do. Why I'm presenting you this? Because I will try briefly to present how we, IAFC in China, we're trying, learning and growing together to work in the best organized way to fulfill, as I mentioned before in the short devotional, God's work in China. Now, we need to remember something. Ellen G. White says that order is one of the first or most important laws in heaven. Okay, so God works in an orderly way. And we see that from creation. He didn't start with Adam and Eve and then said, oh, they need to breathe. So then he created air. And they say, oh, they need to see. So he created light. No, no, no. He went in an order so he could, following that order, achieve the plan of creating you and me. Okay. So I will be sharing with you to do exactly that. Just for you briefly or roughly, what is IFC about? And I hope you can see my screen. Yes, okay. This is our logo. Actually, this is not the latest logo, but I couldn't find the latest one, so bear with me. We have a new logo, a little bit, how to say, updated logo, which it doesn't fight with the Chinese government. So bear with me in my simple presentation, okay? Bear with me in my simple presentation. This is roughly how we are in China. Having churches, we have the fellowships. We call them fellowships because we have not been able to organize as like a organized church. Let me use this same word for the same purpose. So each fellowship, and you represent those fellowships. Now, before COVID, many of these fellowships were quite strong and with many members. Sadly, because of COVID, some of these fellowships are with maybe just a few members. Nevertheless, we are still there. We are still in China, studying, working, and representing God. Now, some time ago, a few years ago, as the fellowship needed more nurturing and needed more visitation and following up so we could grow stronger and more solid way, we decided in one of the youth conference that we had, one of the gathering in Wuhan, to separate China in two in order to make it work easier and that the leaders could be closer to the fellowships, because we live in different cities, so it was too complicated for one executive team to visit all China. And why we have two regions. We have the northern and the southern region. And then we have the national IFC structure. So if you look at this simple organigram, we could say that the national IFC leadership could be like a union with two conferences, the Northern Conference and the South Conference. Okay, I will stop sharing here my screen. As I mentioned, I will be on and off because I hope I'm making myself clear in this parallelism between the world church and us. Why I'm pausing sharing the screen? Because, well, some of you even turn off the camera, so now I can see only Anna. But when I see you and your faces help to reflect whether you understand what I'm saying or you have no idea what I'm trying to express here. Because when the cameras are on and someone like, you know, a face like, what is Pastor Pedro talking about? I'm not getting anything. Or some of you may be like, oh, yes, I know what he's talking about. So thank you for turning on your cameras. And I don't like sharing my screen all the time because I cannot see you well. So once again, my dear family, I'm presenting to you a very simple, how to say, scheme or a very simple plan, how our IFC is working similar to the world church. We have the fellowship, which will be the local churches. These fellowships, some of them are in the north of China, some are in the south of China. Today, we will not be talking where the line is and everything, because it's not the purpose of this meeting to talk about that. If anyone has if I have a question, we can do it in the near future. But that's why we have North and South as conference. So we gather together the fellowships in the South, we gather together the fellowships in the North, and we have as a conference Northern and Southern. So you, member of one of the fellowship, whether Southern or North, can have a closer relationship with your leaders from presidency, secretary department, treasury department, women's ministry, personal ministries, communication department. All the departments can be closer to you. And that's why we are divided in two, not because we don't like each other, but to work closer with each other. So Northern region and Southern region, as I presented to you, and I will share it again one more time so you can clarify in your mind, are the conferences. And the national level, we roughly say it's like the union. So I'm trying to bring names that you do recognize from your church back home, and we can unite those names that we recognize in the structure of IFC. Now we have been working with the Chinese Union Mission, and they also support this kind of working so we can be better organized. Okay, so do we have any question? I saw a message here from with DAF. Oh, okay. Now I understand why we have South region, North region. Yeah, that is the purpose, to work in a better and clearer organized way. Okay, so I will share my screen again, and I will go a little bit farther. Now, I avoid on purpose adding too much information in these simple charts so we can get the main idea. And as we keep on working together this evening, we can develop more if any question comes to mind. Okay, so let me share again my screen. We have union, 2 conferences, and local churches. That is the basic structure of IAFC. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the national level of IAFC, or the union. Okay, so this will be, once again, very simple. We have the administration itself, which is president office, treasurer, and secretary office. They are like the administrator, and in each conference and union is the same. Even though we do have more leaders, the 3 of them, the president with treasury and secretary department, they are the administration of that level. Okay. Of course, the president has more responsibility because he answers to whatever. If it's the union, he answers to the division. If it's the conference, he answers to the union, and the division answers to the general conference. Okay, but here today, I'm not trying to put levels, who has more authority above who. Presenting the structure as simple as I could. Now, in our reality, we don't have all the departments or ministries that the world church have. Why not? Because so far, we as IFC didn't find ourselves in the need of having more departments or more ministries. So as you can see here, we have 3 departments: communication department, women's ministry department, and personal ministry and Sabbath school together. They could be 2 separated, but to make it simple, we have combined. Okay. Now, some of you were part of the nominating committee, and you can look here and you say, but Pastor, we chose president, vice president, treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, assistant secretary. Yes. We have more people working, but this is the basic structure of IFC national level. As you can see here, we don't have the fellowship in this picture, and I will show it in a few seconds later why we don't have the fellowship here. So I will stop sharing again my screen so I can see you better. I don't know if you were able to see me while I'm presenting. I don't know what setting you have in your phone or computer, but I need to see you. So we, as union or IFC, we have the administration, presidency office, with treasurer and secretary as administrator of the IFC union or national level, and then the departments with each leader of each department. Yes, we have the assistants, we have the vice directors and everything forming one team. Now, before we had conferences or regions, IFC National was actually like a big conference, and it was too big for us to actually help each fellowship. That's why we have now 2 regions, 2 conferences, and the fellowships are closer to the conferences or the regions, not so much to the union. It's not that they cannot communicate with union, but they can easily or more effectively communicate to the regions. And that's why, after presenting this simple chart of how IFC national level is organized, I want to show how the conference or northern or southern region are organized. Before jumping to that, do we have any questions so far? No. Okay. You said meeting channels law. Okay, I have here one person. Someone sent me a message. Let me read it for myself, and then I will see if it fits here, or I will answer later. Okay. Yes, I will mention it right now. One of you mentioned that while we were working with one of the nominating committee, someone asked why we don't have youth department or what youth ministry, so we can have children's ministry. You know, the youth department has different branches, and I gave two reasons, at least two reasons, and there might be more. The first reason is very like legal one. And you know that China is very strict regarding who can be taught the Bible, who can receive Bible teachings. And it's only 18 plus that we can openly share the truth of the Bible. Does that mean that I will not teach my children? No, that is, will not stop us to teach our children, but we cannot openly present it as a ministry because it could be draw attention or unnecessary attention to us. And the second reason is it's more a practical one, is that we do not have so many children in our midst. Many of you are students which are not married yet, so you don't have kids. So in our fellowship, we have very few children, and since we have so few children, we can easily organize with our fellowship the activities for them, but still don't have a necessity for a structure to take care of them. Now, I know we do have some children, and I mentioned in that meeting that whenever we feel the necessity, we just added youth ministry or children's ministry to the structure I'm presenting. So if you look in the church manual, we have so many more departments or ministries in our church, and we could add all of them as needed. It's to have all of them, and then we don't have people to work with. Okay, so thank you, dear brother, for presenting this question. I like that we can have this kind of feedback. I mentioned once again, some of you do have kids. In some cities like Dalian, we have families living there, so we do have kids, and if needed, we can help them. But we so far didn't feel the necessity to add youth ministry, like children's ministry, because of that. Can I present the simple chart about the conference or the regions, how we are organized? It's very simple, but let me share once again my screen. I hope you can see my screen. And here is the regional level. It's almost the same, or let me say exactly the same, adding the base or the most important part, which are the local fellowships. Now, you can see that the lines are very interconnected, and that's the way it should work. Now, to make it simple here, in the fellowships, I did not add the departments of each fellowship, because each fellowship has a representative, secretary, has a treasurer, in person. Each fellowship in itself should have all the parts, but I didn't want to complicate it here, because you are part of a fellowship and you know how each fellowship is organized. So I tried to make it very simple here, so we could somehow understand what we are trying to communicate here. Okay, so once again, regional level also has a president working with secretary and the treasurer. They are the administrator, sorry, of that region, that conference, whether it's northern or southern, and they, as administrators, lead the IAFC in that region. Here is also the vice president, the assistant treasury, the assistant secretary, and the vice communication department, vice women's the ministry department, vice also personal Sabbath school ministry, and on and on. So this is your conference. This is who you are. Now, some of you here in this meeting have been called by God through the nomination committee to be part of a regional level, and some of you have been invited by or called by God through the delegates to be in a national level. So I also would like to, and I will stop sharing right now, I will also try to share with you how do we work from union or from national to regionals conferences, and how we can improve our work together. And I want to approach this. By the way, I'm speaking a lot. If you have any contribution, any question, just unmute yourself and say, Pastor, what about this? What about that? I know we will have Q&A, but maybe your question is so relevant now that is no problem stopping, making a parenthesis and answering. So don't be shy, okay? Don't be shy. It's not interrupting, it's contributing. And for me, it will be I love when we can interact, and it's not just speaking. Now, family, I just want to I will try to present in a simple way, as simple as I can, 2 ways that we will be using to communicate with one another. Okay, I spoke in the devotional how important communication is. Now, it's not easy to communicate to you in the simplest way and not to create any confusion. So bear with me, the charts are, as you have seen, very limited and very simple. So at least we can have a grasp how it works, and then we can add more things. Now, I said we have at least 2 ways of communicating. One is as IFC, whether it's national or regional, to their fellowships, to the fellowships. How should I do it? Let me say that God has called me to be part of, I don't know, personal ministries, or even treasure department. And I am a treasurer. I have my team. Later, we will talk a little bit about how we work together toward the end. And I want to organize something for all the treasurers of the fellowships in my region. So with my team of treasurers, we design a plan. And of course, we have it in our schedule. And then 1 month before the actual training, I ask, and I will show you how should I tell the fellowship about my training program that we have been working for several weeks with my team of treasurers, so we can do the training. It will be very easy. It will be very easy for me to try to create one post or whatever and just send it to everyone, because I'm part of, as a treasurer, I'm part of all the fellowship leaderships. But that is not the best way to do it. That is not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is, as I will try to share, and I hope you can understand my very simple chart. This is the external communication line, if we can call it. Okay? This is external. Why I am saying external? Because it's from IAFC, national or regional, to the fellowship. Now, as you can see, each office, president, secretary, treasury, women's department, personal ministry at Sabbath School, we have direct line to all the fellowships through the communication department. Presidency wants to have also a training. How do I do it? I communicate or talk with my team. We decided it's in the schedule, it's in the calendar, and a month before, 3-4, communication department, this is what we will do. Please start sharing this with all the departments. Now, I will stop sharing. I want to see you. There are some times that secretary department might also send a letter to the fellowships. Okay. Why it's not necessary to do it through the communication department? Because maybe it's just an information regarding they need to collect data, or they need, so it's not that every department cannot communicate with the fellowship. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to say here is that whatever program, whatever training, whatever week of prayer, whatever thing my department is organizing for the fellowships, that flyer, that poster, that anything should be sent to the fellowship through the communication department. Now, it is very easy to say, not so easy to be done. Why? Because you're studying, because you're working. And many times we do it last minute thing, and I need today to send it, but I haven't prepared. So if I have to communicate with my communication department leader, it will take 1 or 2 more days until it reach the fellowship. So okay, I will post it myself. Nobody will die if we do it that way, but that is not the best way to do it. That's why I said it at the beginning, and are not my words. God loves order. And even though it's a challenge for all humans, but not so for some. Some of you are so well organized that you have planned everything 6 months, 5 months ahead. So you have everything ready 3 months before. And I think that some of you are like that. If you're like me, we are always working like last minute thing. So this is a great opportunity to grow as a person. A thing to work well needs preparation, needs prayer. And that's why, and I'm talking about external. If with my team, doesn't matter which department, I'm working ahead of time, I have this program very well organized, and then it's easy for me to tell the communication department, please help me with this, to tell all the fellowship, we will have this, as I mentioned, week of prayer, whatever the program we have. So every time the representatives and the fellowship know that this is the channel to receive all the communications. Okay, so this is from us, IAFC, to the fellowships. Most of the time, listen please, most of the time, it will be the regional's communication department, the ones who will be sending to all the fellowships in that region what is going to happen. Sometimes the national level is organizing something for all body of IAFC. So it's like the union doing something national. Then the communication department will do the communication. So all the fellowships know, okay, this is national thing. Okay, this is national thing. So the picture or the chart that I just showed you, it's basically and more applicable to regions. Okay. Oh, I thank you, Kip. Someone is asking, I like this interaction. How about the communications from fellowship to fellowship? We can communicate. And my family, I know I am being a little bit technical here, not too difficult, but a little bit technical. It's not that women's ministry, secretary department can never reach to fellowship. No, I'm not trying to say this. I'm not trying to say that. We can communicate with each other, talk to each other, and plan together. But when something is organized from conference, regions, or union, national level, from us to the fellowships, the communication department is the key element to communicate. Let's say, I don't know all the fellowship. Let's say Wuhan and Shenzhen fellowship, both in South. They want to do something together, and they do something together. Okay, let's say, okay, you will have Sabbath school, and someone from Wuhan will have Sabbath school program, and Shenzhen will have the sermon. It's okay. We can do things together. This is not to kill communication among ourselves. This is just to be better organized and how we from IFC communicate activities. So once again, this is mainly about programs that unified us, training, prayer sessions, anything that comes from IFC, whether it's national or regional, we do it through the communication department. By the way, this simple PPT, I can send it to your communication department, to any one of you. I don't know if sharing here is useful. Maybe it's better through WhatsApp or through mail. So you can have it, and you can try to organize your mind, because it's not a secret. I'm just communicating how mostly the word church works. So between fellowships, you communicate. It's like it's not that we are closing any channel of communication. Okay, thank you, Kip, for asking this question. Okay, thank you, and I like this, that we can interact. Someone is asking, please, you can see this question. Please briefly show us or tell us the difference on work of secretary and communication department. Very good question. They are very different departments. Secretary department is mostly about data from fellowships. So the secretary needs to know how many fellowships we have, the names of the representatives. Actually, the secretary of the regional, let me put the conference, needs to know everything about each fellowship, representative, secretary, all the names, and if possible, all the names of the members. So the secretary will have like folders, if you allow me to use the computer term, like little folders, like Shenzhen, Wuhan, Jinan, and inside of the folder we'll have, okay, who is the representative, who is the secretary, who is the treasurer, all the members, if possible with phone numbers. So secretary department basically is collecting data from the fellowship. So whenever any department needs any kind of information, can ask the secretary, of course. And I will go to the next level of communication, internal communication. The chart is a little bit more complicated, but I hope it's clear enough so we can understand it. And communication department is just, sorry, and please bear with me, my simplistic way to put it, okay? Communication department is the one who helps all the other departments to communicate with the fellowship what is going to be done this month. So it's not the secretary who will tell each fellowship, okay, we will have a prayer meeting or prayer session this coming, I don't know, August 2nd Sabbath. It's not the secretary to do that. That is the communication department. The secretary is aware because we work as a team, and I will go briefly how we work as a team. But the secretary is not there to inform. Yes, sometimes the secretary needs to write a letter to a fellowship, needs to write a letter to one or two or all the representatives. So that's why before I said secretary department might send some letters to the fellowships, but mostly is to ask for data. Mostly is to ask for data, update data or anything regarding how the fellowship, individual fellowship, local fellowships are working. I don't know, Huawei Honor 30 Lite, if I'm answering your question or not, because you don't have the name, so I don't know who's asking, but I truly hope I am answering. By the way, Sister Anna, no, communication is nothing like personal ministry. It has nothing to do with personal ministries. Absolutely nothing to do with personal ministries. Personal ministries and Sabbath school are two departments separated in many conferences, in many churches. In many other conferences is one department. And let me put it this way. By the way, I love that you're interacting because this is learning, pure learning. Personal ministry is each fellowship reaching out to others. Okay, your job as a fellowship to reach to others, Chinese and other international students or teachers or whatever, so they can know about God. Personal ministry, outside. Sabbath school, internal. How do I help the fellowship to grow spiritually? What I'm going to organize as a local fellowship, personal Sabbath school leader, anything besides Sabbath school, which is the heart of each church, any activity that it will help the spiritual life of my fellow members grow. Of course, I can work with women's ministry or any other person who wants to do something. It's not like you hold the key. If it's not through you, no one can grow spiritually. It doesn't work that way. We are serving the Lord here. So once again, thank you, Shiva, for asking. Communication department has nothing to do with personal ministries. Okay, nothing to do. Both are very, very distinctive and unique departments. Somehow, communication department is the link from your department, from your office to the fellowship whenever you want to reach all the fellowship at once. That's why the simple chart that I show you, I put in one side all the offices and all the lines connect to the communication department, and the arrow. Let me show you again. It's so simple. Sorry, I'm being so simplistic here, but let me share again. And I hope you can see. See this arrow here? Maybe I should have written here fellowship. I should have, but so all the offices, president, secretary, treasurer, women's ministry, personal ministry, and Sabbath school, any activity that you're organizing for the fellowships, when you want to launch that program, you do it through the communication department. Why? Just to have a better channel of communication, so no one is confused. But women's ministry send me this, and personal ministry send me this, and president send me this. So I don't understand who. But it's the same date. But if we do it through one channel, because we are very well organized, we will not be stepping on each other's program, and everything will be done in order. So I hope I'm answering your question. In my mind is clear. I don't know if from my mouth to you is not so clear. Don't worry, ask me again. Ask, I don't mind, I'm human. I made so many mistakes. English is not my first language. Good, I have another question. I love this. What would be the difference in the work of the regional communication department in the national? Yes, fantastic. Okay. This question is a basic question, an important question. Walter, okay, thank you, Walter, for your question. National level before had a lot of work to do, very heavy load of work, because national communication department had to reach all the fellowships and everything was complicated. Now, national level has somehow the load of work, it's simpler. Especially, and I'm talking about communication department right now. I'm not talking about personal ministry or women's ministry, communication department specifically. Then I will go to the other. The national level, it should be the advisors of the other of the conferences. So you let me put as an example myself, and I hope Brian doesn't mind. He has his camera on. Thank you, Brian, for being here. I love to see you and not blank or black. So let us say that Brian from Jinzhou, he is the director or vice director, doesn't matter, from the national level, and I am the director of Northern and Southern region. So union and conference. He is my mentor. Brian will help me if I have any problem with communication, even if I have no idea how to design a flyer, a poster, or whatever. He will be my mentor, helping me to communicate in a better way. Now, his job is not to check if I'm doing a good job or not. His job, Brian, is to help me to be more effective to communicate whatever I have to communicate. So if I am the director of the Southern region, I will have Brian's number with me all the time, and I will be communicating with him for advice. Now, Brian being on national level, he will, and I'm just using names here, okay? I'm just using names as an example. Brian will create a WhatsApp group. Pastor Gustavo on Saturday will talk about law and security, but I am using specifically WhatsApp, not WeChat. WeChat doesn't exist for IAFC anymore. You know what this two hands mean? WeChat is, I cannot say forbidden, but not for IAFC. Church, we don't communicate through WeChat, only WhatsApp or Telegram or whatever other platform you want to use with your associates. So Brian will create a WhatsApp group with my name and the name of the vice director of my region and the name of the director of the Northern region and the vice director of the Northern region, and we will be a team of 6. 2 from national, 2 from North, 2 from South, and we work together. Now remember communication, and we also try to have web page for IFC. It was complicated. I forgot to ask if it's still working on that. If we had the opportunity to have that in a secure way, then of course the communication department is the one in charge to feed what we are doing. Nowadays, I think because China is so tight, the law is so tight, it's even safer not to have anything in social medias that will compromise, or no, not compromise, sorry, to put in danger, let me put it this way, put in danger our job for God in China. So once again, I'm not sure if I'm answering, Walter, if I'm answering your question. As a team, it will be very wise that no matter whether I'm south or north director for communication, I work all the time with the 6 of us. I would try. If I am in that team, communication department, I will be chatting with them, not every day, of course, but in 1 month I have this this program to broadcast to my region. What do you think is the best way to do it? And then we get practice and practice. Now, Brian, once again, just an example, Brian is the national director for communication. Now, we do things nationally. We also do things nationally. So from time to time, Brian will be the one communicating to all the IAFC groups with the national plan. It will not be through me or through the Northern Region Communication Department. He himself will be delivering the message to all the fellowship because this is national. Okay? Now, of course, we do more things regionally than national. But when national is organizing something, Brian, once again, is just an example name, will be the one communicating to all the fellowships. So every fellowship knows, okay, this is national, it's not from the region. Okay, so Walter, I'm happy that I was able somehow to answer your questions. Can we move on? We talk about external, so from IFC to the fellowship, how we work. I would like to move, how do we communicate internally? And this, I don't know what, let me check the time. I think we have time, Sister Anna. We still have time, right? We still have time, okay. I'm trying to go fast, but not too so fast that it wouldn't be understandable. Let me check my next slide. Yeah, this next slide looks like a little bit more messy because it has more arrows. But if you bear with me, it's very, very simple. But now I will be a little bit more specific about fellowship regions to national. Okay, so I hope you can bear with me. I will try to go slowly how things will work. Okay, so let me share one more time the screen. It's also simple, a tiny bit more like not complicated, but complex. This is internal communication. You see, we have the neck, that's the union. We have Southern region, Northern region, conferences, and fellowships. Those are like the big, how to say, levels of communication. And then we have two sets of arrows. As I mentioned to you before, local churches or local fellowships in this case are the base, they're the pillars of the IFC structure. Without fellowship, we would not have IFC. And in this simple chart, or tries to be simple, somehow we reflect this. Each fellowship also has departments. You have presidency, or maybe you don't have a president, but you have the representative, you have a secretary, you have a treasurer, and then you have a women's ministry director, you have the personal ministry director, and the communication director. Maybe some fellowship don't have a communication department because you don't feel the need to have communication department. That is up to every fellowship. Now, let us say that I will use myself. I am communicating with some of the fellowship from my region, and we want to do something, let us say, a very special Sabbath, a musical Sabbath. Let us put it that way. And the one organizing in my fellowship is the leader of personal ministry, because he or she feels that through music reach out bring it together. So me, from a fellowship, I write to personal ministry. I write to my leader of Sabbath School personal ministry leader from the region and say, look, I have been talking with the guys, with the sisters, and we want to organize this. Can we do it? So personal ministries attending a request from the fellowship says, yes, let's do it. Let me help you and we organize this. Now, you from personal ministry from the region, it doesn't matter north or south, from the conference, you're part of a team. You're part of the Northern Region Executive Committee. You, as a team, you have a president, treasurer, secretary. You meet once a month or every 2 months, and you communicate what you did in the past and what you are going to do in the future. And you say, from the fellowship, we want to organize this. So the team knows about this. The president helps you to organize. Okay, very, very good. Beautiful program. Oh, someone is writing here. Can I write? Oh, yes, maybe I can write, but I don't want to complicate things. Now, I am another person, the director of the personal ministries of my conference. I already talked with my president. My president knows in the executive committee of our region, we said, yes, let us do it. Now, me, the director of personal ministry in Sabbath School from the conference, I communicate with my leader from the NEC, National Executive Committee. I hope you're following me. I am from the region, a conference. I communicate to my mentor, my advisor in the national level, which is the director of the personal ministry Sabbath School director, or she or him. It doesn't matter the gender here. And I said, in 3 months, we will have this. Now, the national director says, fantastic, I love this. In this meeting with the National Executive Committee, I will know presidency and the whole team what is going to be happening in this conference, Northern or Southern, this month. Now, this helps, and I will stop here sharing because I need to see you. This helps to be very well organized. Now, before I move forward, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. My kids, I think, need my attention. Give me 1 second, please. Sorry for that. Natalie is busy, my wife, so I'm trying to take care of the kids as well. Now, I want to make a parenthesis here because I have shown you the way up, okay? Fellowship, conference, union. To work well in any structure, we need to plan, right? So many of you are new leaders, maybe national level or regional level. Soon you will start working. You will receive office from the former director or treasurer or whatever, and you will start working in your office. We cannot just say, okay, I don't know what I will do, but whenever the occasion comes, I will plan something. So we cannot improvise. God doesn't like too much improvisation. He likes order. So it's very advisable that you from your region and national level, when you gather the first meeting, the second meeting, It would be good if we can have regular meetings once a month, no less than once a month. The first weeks will be, okay, what we want to plan for the next year. The World Church, and this is very simple to see, the World Church, you go to the main webpage of the General Conference, and then you see each month which dates are important in the church. You have women's ministry, you have children, you have so many programs, you have youth week of prayer. So you from national or regional, looking at that, you in your department, you can think ahead and say, okay, in October next year, we will have this. And you put in the agenda, we will have this. Why? Because soon the regionals, the conference, will work with the national union, combining the program, so we don't each other, and we have a complete road trip map of the next year. What will happen in January, what will happen in February. I'm just starting with the new year, but we start before that. But let me just to organize mentally. January, we will have this, February, this, March, this, and on and on. So everybody knows what is going to happen. Now, I made a parenthesis in the previous explanation. Why? Because it might happen, as I mentioned, sometimes the fellowships wants to organize something. And as the fellowship communicate with you, director of that department, you have the annual plan. And that fellowship says, can we do this in March, the third Sabbath? So you search in the calendar and you see that it's open. The third Sabbath in March is actually open. So we can do, as I said, from the fellowship to the conference, to the union, everybody knows that the third Sabbath of March, the Northern region will do this special musical program because that slot was open and will not overstep with anything. Okay, so we have internal communication fellowship asking me, director of the regional, with I am the director of that department. In the executive committee of my level, I communicate to presidency and everything we discuss. Yes. And then me, director of that department, communicate with my advisor, with my supervisor, or the name you want to put it, my mentor of the national level. Okay. We discuss, we plan, we finalize. And then me, director of the national level now, communicate with my executive committee. So everyone knows from presidency neck, presidency region, everybody knows what is happening. I want to make a pause here to know if I'm making any sense or I am just talking Chinese to you. And I say Chinese because I don't speak Chinese. Okay, William has this. So it's making sense so far? It's making sense? Yes, I see some heads nodding. So I will try to review the whole system again, because this system will help us avoid any headache, any misunderstanding, any problem, because everybody is communicating with each other. Now, let me give you an example. Let us say we don't have so many departments, so I will use, instead of personal ministry, I have women's ministry. Let us say women's ministry, or yeah, women's ministry. I am from the one of the conferences, okay, one of the regions. I don't need to be communicating with anybody else. I don't need to communicate my plan to the secretary of the national. I don't have to do to the secretary. Whenever I have the plan, I communicate with my, of course, the president of your region. That is a given, okay? That is for sure. You will never plan anything without your president from your region, no. okay? Because you have once a month the meeting, so he knows what is going to happen. But if you're from women's ministry regional, you communicate with your advisor, your helper, your mentor from the national women's ministry, and you tell her everything that is needed to know, and her from national we communicate with executive committee, so presidency from the north will know. Okay, now I want to make a distinction here between two things that we need to communicate. One communication is about things that pass in the past. Let me say, we are in July. So it's good, it's very healthy that if in May or June, I did a special program with my region, it would be excellent that I give a report to my president and to my advisor in the national. It would be excellent, saying how many people, who participated in what kind of responses, what suggestions we get. So giving a report, maybe every 2 months or every 3 months, to my region president, and then to my advisor in the national, it would be perfect. So we have the feedback. So this is one thing I, in office, need to have in mind. I need to report what I did in the past. Okay? Now, I need to have in mind a second important part here. Let us say we start working in September as the new executive committee, North, South, National. I am the South. With the executive committee from the South, we see all the dates, and my department, secretary department, will have two that will be twice a year, a training for the secretaries of the fellowships. I am a secretary from the South, Conference of the South, and I ask in the calendar 2 dates. So my president, whoever she or he is, add my 2 meetings. One will be, I don't know, March, the other will be in October, just giving a date. Me, I communicate with my advisor, supervisor, my dates, so she knows in the national level. But president, of course, he will gather all the special dates for all the departments, will create a schedule of the meetings, each month, which department will do what. And of course, me, president, I communicate with the national presidency, having the agenda, the planning. Okay, so I plan ahead. In March, I will have this training for all the secretaries of the fellowship of the Southern region. Fantastic. Is that all that is required from me? No. No, my friends. And this, I think we can improve. Because having the date already voted, it doesn't mean I don't have to tell anyone else what I'm going to do on that specific meeting. It is voted that in March, I will have the training for secretaries of the Southern region, all the fellowships. Good, it's approved. Now, at least 2 months, minimum 1 month prior to that particular date in March, I, Secretary of the South, will create the program. Who will be the first prayer? Who will be the special music? Who will be the main speaker? Who will do the closing prayer? So I create the actual program of that day that it was already approved, and I communicate what I'm going to do. Family, this is crucial. I communicate not to receive a second approval. It has been approved already. But my president needs to know what I'm going to do, specifically do in that program. Why? It has happened in the past that I have a friend outside of China. He or she is working for the World Church, whatever, and I want to invite him or her to this meeting. We chat regular in WhatsApp, whatever. We as a church, we need to respect the church, World Church. Even though I might be friend with the secretary of the South America division, a personal friend, I cannot just invite him out of the blue to speak to us. I need to follow the proper channels. Even we might need to ask our pastor, James Tam, who is the leader of the union for the youth department, to write an official letter to the president of the South America division to allow the secretary of the South America division to speak to us in our meeting. So if because we are friends, I invite him and don't tell anyone, I might be being very disrespectful of how the church works. And let me give you a very worst scenario. Okay, let me give you a worst scenario, but bear with me why I need to communicate what I'm going to do in that particular meeting. It's not a second approval. It's just telling my president and my advisor from the NEC what I'm going to do in the meeting. Why? Sadly, it could happen. Thank God, I'm not sure if it happened to us, but it could happen somewhere else. It could happen to us. That I have a name in mind to invite for certain training or whatever. And maybe I am not aware that that person sadly has left the church and now is working against the church. And because I don't know this, and I have a contact who has a contact, I invite that person. And instead of being a blessing for the training I have, I bring a problem to my meeting. Now, if I communicate in advance to my president, Southern Region, and to my advisor, Secretary of the National, who in the meeting will communicate with presidency, of course, and my president and presidency from region and national will know and will look at the names, they might help me and kind of save me for having a very big problem because I invited that person who actually sadly is not longer working for God. So once again, I know I have been talking a lot and it might be a lot to take, but having my date for secretary training approved in the yearly calendar, it doesn't mean that I have stopped communicating what I will do on that particular date. And when I, hopefully 2 months, at least 1 month in advance, I have the program already, all the names of who will do what in the program, I bring that to my executive meeting in my region, my conference, so my president knows. And at the same time, I communicate with the secretary of the national because she or he is my mentor, my advisor. And he or she in the national level will communicate to the presidency. So both national level and southern level knows, everyone knows what it will happen on that particular date that has been approved. And presenting the program is not a second approval. It's just taking precautions and being organized because I know that in a month in advance, I need to communicate what I'm going to do. Once again, in my mind is very clear. I'm not sure if I'm being clear because I'm giving a lot of information, which is not hard to take, but has some details. Do we need to review one more time what I'm trying to say here? No. Yes, no. Let me just be briefly, let me share again the screen. And we will review with the screen. Okay. Let me I love this question. Okay, let me move this so you can see that this question is so for clarity. Every time the fellowship will be inviting a speaker, we need to pass the information up to the conference and the union. Yes and no. Yes and no. If the person I inviting has a responsibility in the church, let's say he's I don't know, a director in one of the departments of a union or a conference or even divisional, it would be better if we pass the name and we do it in a very organized way. Now, why I'm saying yes and no? Because some conferences in the world are not even allowing pastors to give any kind around the world, because now Zoom is open to so many. It's so easy. Some conferences are not allowing pastors to speak anywhere unless they receive an invitation, an official invitation from a kind of organization of the church somewhere in the world. Maybe some other conference gives some freedom to the pastors, to the local pastors, districtal pastors, to help in other regions of the world. If that is the case of the pastor you are inviting, and when I say pastor, it could be another leader, an elder, then you don't need to go through the whole process of with the name of the person you are inviting. But it would be very advisable that if you're inviting someone from union, someone from conference around the world, it would be much if we do it through the proper channel, to be respectful, just that, to be respectful with the rest of the world church. Okay, so I'm not sure if I am answering your question properly. I truly hope I am. So yeah, you say okay, thank you. Let me, there's one or two more messages here, bear with me. Oh, thank you, Ezekiel. Your question is so, I love question, guys. This is so good. Question: communication of programs to president or NEC director, should it be done in writing PDF form? Yes. I'm not saying yes to the PDF, but I'm saying yes to the written form. Yes to the, it could be a simple Excel, you know, or a Word table, you know, saying the date, activity, responsible, is like saying first prayer, open song, whatever, very simple. And you share that with your executive committee in the meeting you have, and then to your director. That director will communicate with the national, so presidency national, presidency region will be aware of the program. Okay, Ezekiel, so thank you for your question. It's so important. It's advisable to do it in writing. If you're working with such enough time and you already ask your communication department, the director, to make the flyer for you, and you want to show the flyer or the poster or whatever, you will ask the communication department to share with the fellow, yes, to the fellowship, even better, because in that flyer you have all the communication. Okay, now you remind me of something, Ezekiel, which is not minor. For example, we might be doing a simple mistake that it happened in the past, that someone typing very fast the meaning of IAFC, and instead of saying International Adventist Fellowship China, they wrote something different because they were in a hurry. But if we communicate in advance, my president or my advisor, the director of the NEC, or even presidency from the NEC, may see the mistake and say, be aware of this poster, change this or that. So even is a like a proof. No, how do you say that? Reading proof or something like that. so you don't make any kind of mistake, even in the typing. So it's better. Now, once again, this requires planning. So my dear leaders, if we improvise, for sure there will be some kind of difficulties. If we learn to plan in advance, everything will run smoothly. Please remember something that I mentioned at the beginning. The enemy does not want us to do this for God. So he will, not he might, he will try to break us in any possible way. So let us not give room to any conflict because I forgot to do it and last minute I am planning to do this or that, okay? No, yes or no? The question is so good, Tasha. Every program that each fellowship will be having should be communicated to the region. No. Yes, in the sense that it's good that you communicate. That is, so don't feel like an extra pressure. If you're doing something inside of the fellowship, you don't need to communicate because it's mandatory. It's better if you tell in advance. To, let's say you are the personal ministry from one fellowship and you will do something in your fellowship. You will be having a picnic. No people talking from the outside, it's just you. It would be wonderful if you let know the personal ministries from your region know that you, so he can pray for you, or she. When I say he, is she. That person, that director can pray for you. If you do it in advance, the NEC will be praying for you, and at least the executive committee from your region will be praying for you for that simple program. But maybe God, not maybe, for sure God will want it to use to reach even to one person. So communicating to your to the director of your region only help. Any reason you forgot to mention it, so nobody is praying for you, you do the activity, please, in the report that you will write, or maybe your representative will write, include last week or last month we did this activity, this was the outcome, so we can know what every fellowship did. Okay, so if you didn't communicate in advance, at least report what you did, so we know how things are going in the fellowship. Okay, so thank you, Tasha, for your question. It sounds, the question as I read it, it sounds that, oh, this will be so heavy. Every time I want to do something, I have to communicate. It shouldn't be a burden. On the contrary, because you're planning ahead, every fellowship should have an annual plan, respecting the dates that comes from the national and the regional. You will have free Sabbath. It's not like every Sabbath, every month, you must do like national or regional is proposing. No, so you will be doing. So in the dates that are kind of free, you can plan and you can plan ahead. So yes, you can communicate. It's not mandatory, but it will be much, much better. I put this this PPT again, just to show you one more time the importance of communicating on time. Okay, reports are important, but that is the past. You did it already. Communicating ahead is the best. And once again, I know I have been repeating this, but I want to have peace of mind in my mind, and I want you to have peace of mind in your mind. Even though in the annual calendar, your program has been approved, please remember that at least 1 month prior to that date, you should share with your regional and with your advisor, national, what is going to happen in that program. Please, erase from your mind that is a second approval. No. It's just letting know you the neck what is going to happen in the program that you're organizing in the South for all the fellowship. Okay, I have another question here. Let me see. Oh, time's up. Okay. Give me 1 second. I just want to show this. It's just like a summary. Okay, let me read it, or maybe someone can read it for us. Who can read? Anyone can unmute and read, please? This is kind of a summary, very, very simplistic. Anyone can unmute and read, please?
Yeah, I can read for you.
Tasha, please.
All right, how does internal communication work? Each department of the fellowship will inform to the representative of that fellowship and also to the leader of the respective EC
Executive
of the
committee.
region that the fellowship belongs to. All right, let me go again. So each department of the fellowship will inform
Yes.
to the representative of that fellowship and
Yes.
also to the leader of the respective executive of the region that fellowship belongs to. The leaders of each department at the regional level will inform the president of that region and the leader of the department from the NEC. The leaders of each department of the NEC will communicate the president all the information of that department he or she represents.
Good.
There are two types of information that needs to be shared by each level. First, reports of activities done every 2 to 3 months, and these reports need to be created by NEC and the regions.
Let me
and the
stop you right there.
second,
Let me stop you 1 second there, Tasha. It's proposed that we will have kind of like a format to make it easier to report. Okay, these are not done yet, but I included here because it is proposed by the advisors that we could have like a special format, so it will be easier to inform what we have been doing. Please read number 2.
Okay, and number 2, details of activities to be conducted in the future. These activities were already presented in the annual plan, but no details of that particular program need to be shared.
Thank you so much. Okay, poof, I've been talking too much. I hope in your mind at least some of this information grab there and stay there. Once again, it's very simplistic and just touching the surface, but I hope it can bring clarity on how we will be working, and if we, by God's help, can achieve this, you will see how much more things we can do and interact. So we are actually a living church and not just fellowships here and there that sometimes we tell others what we are doing. No, we are a living body because we're communicating, we're growing together. Okay, my time's up. Now, shoot, any question?
Okay, thank you, Pastor Adrian. It was very nice. For me, I understood everything. I don't know about others. So any questions if you have, please just raise your hand and okay, Ezekiel, go on.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I want to ask a question on the part where you had shown the NEC structure, and you had hinted that a ministry is only created when there is a necessity. So I wanted to ask a question. So is it, if, for instance, in the IFC, there's no men's ministry. So if maybe the men in the IFC, maybe they want a men's ministry to be created, is there a procedure that they can follow to create to have the men's ministry or men's department created, or maybe it depends on the NEC executives to see whether there is a necessity or not? Thank you so much. I will need clarity on that one.
Excellent question. Excellent question. It can come from any direction. Let us say you're working in the north. In your fellowships, their representatives, you're talking about this, and it's cooking, as we say. No, we need this and we need that. So from region, you can communicate to the NEC and say, look, in our region, this is happening. By the way, I cannot share all the information at once. The National Executive Committee, the members are all, of course, all the directors of each office, plus the two presidents from the north and the south. So every time the National Executive Committee meets, the president from north and south, they are there too. Okay, so it's very good. Now let's say that in your region, we have the necessity of men's ministry. So through your president in the national, it's discussed. They pray about it. They ask the other region, the south in this case, this is coming. Do you think it would be proper? And then everyone agrees. And we are not creating any ministry. We are adding the ministry that church already has. So it's not that IAFC does not want to have all the ministries or departments that the world church has. No, we could have all of them, but we are adding them as we, and when I say we, it's you guys, sense the necessity of doing it. So the procedure is actually very simple. We communicate the need, we study, we discuss, we vote. Okay, Ezekiel, so the IFC is not like a very structured and stiff and mean organization that wants to have control, and no. We're working for God voluntarily because we want Jesus to come soon, period. So it's not like we cannot propose anything because it would be frowned upon, and no. We're a family working for God.
Pastor?
Yes, Tasha, right?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes,
Is
please.
there a timeline? I'm going back to the programs for the fellowships and forwarding them up. Is there a timeline that the fellowships will have in which they would need to share these informations? Like, for example, you spoke about giving an outline of the plans for the year for the fellowship, and then there is a detailed information about what happened in that specific program and so forth. But would there be like a timeline? Do they have to do this by X time, Y time?
We haven't set it up a timeline, Tasha. Now, logically speaking, it would be advisable that at least 2 or 3 weeks prior to the program, we can communicate to the regional director of that department to let him or she know what is going to happen. If we do it, let's say we have this Sabbath, and on Friday evening, I communicate to the department, to the director of the regional, there's not much prayer to do prior. And if there's anything to help with or to correct, there's no room because I didn't know that was going to happen. Okay. So even though there is not a written timeline, if you paid attention, I mention all the time, a month prior to the activity. It's not written, it's not mandatory, it's only advisable. Now, maybe a month ahead is too much. Okay, 3 weeks, but not less than 2 weeks prior. Okay, so we didn't write that down. And when you say we, because I am part of IAFC as advisor, we have not written down when it should be done, but that is the advice we're giving. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Tasha.
Yes, and I'm sorry, but I have a follow-up question.
Yes,
All
please,
right.
go ahead.
I like what you're sharing, right? But I don't know about anybody else, but I can tell you, Pastor, that the reality that we're living in is that truthfully, sometimes programs are not even planned 2 weeks or a month before, based
Yes.
on availability of persons in the fellowship, people willingly coming on board to get things done. And you find that a lot of times you don't have persons coming on board, even when there is a plan and
Mhm.
people are placed there to organize and plan activities and all of these things. A lot of times people drop the ball, and that's the truth about it. And
Yes.
so even I'm just looking at the feasibility of all of it within the respect of the reality of what we're living in. Everybody says that they're here to do their schoolwork and to work. And so, yes, they volunteer the time to work for God, but the truth is that sometimes their priority is school and work. And then you find now that it's only a minority or just a few people, maybe 2 or 3 people who have to come together to create a program, sometimes in a week.
I
So
know.
getting the information passed on 2 to 3 weeks before, I don't know, to be honest, how feasible it's going to be. I don't know about other fellowships and how they operate, but from where I sit, that's the reality I'm seeing.
And Tasha, thank you for, I love this. If we try to masquerade or paint everything pink, or everything is easy, then we are not being truthful to ourselves. Yes, that is correct. What the picture I'm trying to share here is what we would like to have. Now, let me make a slight distinction here. It's a little bit different from fellowship to regional than from regional to national. Fellowship, we are small group, okay? We are just a few. Maybe we are asking help from other fellowship for my program, local program. So yes, maybe it's complicated to get names. Now, in a regional level or national level, because we have a wider spectrum of work, it shouldn't be that hard to have at least the main guideline of the program ahead of time. Yes, maybe one name or two will drop at last minute, but at least you have already your program set up. You have the theme, you have all the parts already organized, and out of maybe 4 or 5 people that will be taking part, maybe 1 or 2 will drop, but you still have your program ahead of time. So Tasha, speaking in a fellowship level, 100% agree. Sometimes even the night before, you will have yourself to prepare the main theme, because the person who say yes to whatever presentation last minute say I can't, and you are the one organizing, is okay, God, Father, please help me to present this topic. Yes, in a regional or national level, once again, because we have a wider spectrum of people, we need to keep practicing to have as much ahead of time as we can. And yes, once again, this is the idealistic picture. Okay, reality is so different. And we were talking in other committees, every every country, the conference, all the workers meet every day because they come physically to work. So it's so easy to communicate among itself, because you walk from one office or from one box to the other and you're there. Here we are different cities. And sometimes I cannot connect to my VPN to connect to WhatsApp. So I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy, but because we're working for God, we will do the best we can for him, and he will do the rest. So Tasha, thank you for what you have said. And yes, you're completely right. Many times, even though we try to do ahead of time, things do not go as planned. And we keep on praying. We keep on praying. God is in control. And God knows that I have been trying to do it before time, so things go well for his honor and glory. Okay. So thank you, Tasha. If you have a follow-up question, don't hesitate. We're here for that. I think there's a someone wrote, Christy. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Christy. She's saying, Pastor, from my experience with my fellowship, our internal program runs smoothly on average 2 to 3 months ahead, but IFC programs are often communicated, I'm translating a little bit, or introduced to the fellowship even within 1 week. Okay, and that is what we want to amend, to correct, to fix. Okay, we want to fix that. We want fellowship to know in advance. Now, if the communication department, whether it's regional or national, do not have the information from the department on time, they cannot communicate to the fellowship prior time. That's why we're spending these 2 hours talking so we can internalize here. God called me to this department, so I will ask God to help me to plan 1 or 2 things a year, or maybe 4 times a year, this particular, so I will work enough ahead of time so we can have it communicate to the fellowship at least 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. Yes and yes. Thank you for what you're saying. Remember, as IFC is growing, more people are involved and more we learn from each other. Okay, so nobody who is in office, no one in office knows everything is perfect. No, we're working, studying, and doing many things, and we do this voluntarily for the Lord. So it's not so simple, but we want to get better. So what you're expressing here, we want to fix it and do it better. Thank you so much for what you have shared with me. More questions? Contributions? Things to fix? Time's up, right? See, I talked to, oh, Misha, okay. I talk too much. This is my problem.
Hi.
Please.
Is it the goal of the structure of the Adventist Fellowship here in China to be alike? For example, with the fellowships, I feel like the structure is a little bit different. You're very clear as in to the national executive, like the role of secretary and communications are quite separated. However, in the fellowship, as the secretary, I think I have both roles of being the communication, the one to deal with communication to the members and also dealing with collecting information. So how does that work?
Your line is very clear, but for some reason I cannot fully comprehend. So you're asking me, I will try to see if I understood your question. If not, correct me, or someone.
Maybe it's best I speak on speaker. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Again, please. So I understand.
Multitasking, so probably that's why. I apologize. I was saying that is the goal of the organization to be alike or to resemble each other. So for example, in the fellowships, it seems like we have more ministries and more tasks than the IAFC. So is the goal to be alike, or should the fellowship resemble IAFC's structure, or IAFC should resemble the fellowships? How does that work? Because, for example, I'm the secretary, but I also do communication, but I see that they are separated in IFC. So why is that?
Good. Thank you. I heard clearly now. Very, very clear. Let me try
sorry.
no, it's okay. to see if I can I can answer you. Remember, local fellowship, depending on the size, depending on how many members, it might happen that one person needs to take care of different things because there are no more people. And it also happens sometimes in churches. I was a pastor in the northwest part of Argentina, very little budget. So one of the pastors in the conference, he was the director of communication, music, personal ministry, and youth. So every time he visited us, he was the only one. They were like 2 or 3 pastors, and then presidency, treasurer, and secretary, because there were no budget. So he was doing everything. Now, in other conferences that had more budget, they have different people in different departments. Why? To make things run smoother. Now, you are the communication department and the secretary of the fellowship of maybe 20, 30, 50 people. So somehow you can handle easily your job because it's only locally. Now, when as up we go, region or national, the more information that person needs to take care of. So if we have only one person for communication, secretary, women's ministry, I'm just mentioning 3 of them, it will be very complicated for that person to attend to all the necessities. That's why we divide in departments so we can take better care of the necessities of the fellowships. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Misha, why we are not exactly the same. Let me add one more thing. If your fellowship has at least, I don't know, 10, 15 people, it would be very much advisable that the departments could be given to different people so more people are involved in working for the Lord. Okay. Nisha, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Then I have another question that I wanted to ask. Now, in
Please.
terms of fellowships and the executives and meetings and things like that, would you advise how often meetings should be held? And a last question also, is there a structure to services and how services should be held? And sort of like a booklet or so that goes on to explain the rules and the roles of each different department? I think I asked like 3 questions.
No, it's okay. I will try. You remind me. I will start with the last one. Try to get online. If not, I can try to find it and send it to you, the PDF. We try to run by the church manual, the World Church Manual. Okay, so in the church manual, we have a brief explanation of what each ministry or how it should be administrated or run. Secretary department, treasury department, and all of the departments you have in the church manual of the World Church, they have the explanation. Okay, now in respect of meetings, I'm not sure if you meant service. Sorry, I'm not sure if you meant the liturgia of each service for
Executive
worship or
meetings, executive meetings.
okay, executive meetings. So let me briefly do two answers here. If it's the executive committee of the fellowship, okay, it should be the leader of the meeting should be the representative. He will be like the chairperson. Okay. By the way, the church manual also helps us a little how to do that when we have meetings, church board, because somehow we are doing a church board. If you're doing in the fellowship, it's a church board. Okay, so there you have like a simple model on how to work with it. Now, we do have an order how to work with proposals. We second the proposal, we vote. So we could, through the church manual, help you with that. If not, if you need something more simple, we can try to extract and then give you. And when I say give you, is to those who are in need. Now, the advice should be that at least once a month to gather to discuss specific things, upcoming programs, problems that some of the local members may have. So it's advisable to have once a month a meeting. It shouldn't be long. Prayer, a short devotional, and discuss this simple agenda, maybe 2-3 points, no more than that. Okay. Now, if we go to the regional level or national, it's similar. It's very advisable, at least in the regional, once a month. That is the advice. Once a month, at least, to see each other, to see things are going well. And once again, because we want to not only approve, but to present ahead of time what we are going to do. So at least once a month, we should be gathering as a regional level executive committee. Now, it's easier to say than to be done. So each region will have to work together on how to do this the best way. Okay, so I leave that to each president, vice president, with the secretary and treasury, that they are the administrators with the departments, and then work a plan. National level also, every month or at least twice a month, to know how things are doing, and we try to help with any situation or extra situation we may have. Okay. Now, let me just say something from Misha's question. Let me say something simple here. Let us say you're national of secretary or any of the department. Now, let's say that we gather twice a month in national level or regional level, doesn't matter. But let us say that I am in the national secretary. Let me put the personal ministry, will be easier. Now, from the southern region, someone there, the director of the personal ministry southern region, communicates to me. I'm the director of the national personal ministry, and they need help fast. So I, director of personal ministry, don't need to wait for an executive committee to gather. I can ask president right away, look, we have this situation. The personal ministry director from the south is having this difficulty. How should we address the problem? So you from national department can communicate all the time with presidency for any kind of problem. The same with the region. Let's say you're women's ministry in the northern region and you have a situation, you communicate with your president, WhatsApp or not WeChat, Telegram, or any other program immediately. You don't need to wait for a meeting. Now, if we need to vote something, yes, we wait for the meeting. Okay, so national level or regional, you meet once a month, twice a month. It shouldn't be less than once a month. Okay, because once every 2 months is too far away and it could disconnect things. So it should be at least. I know that twice a month, not even church board meets twice a month. Okay, not even the church board. I'm working here in this the conference, Hong Kong, Macau. We meet once a month with all the pastors. Okay, so it shouldn't be more than that. That's why we have communication open. Every department can communicate to the president of that region or national with any situation to fix it at that time, not waiting for the meeting or anything. I'm not sure if I answer the question.
Yes, you did. Thanks. It's good. Thanks.
Thank you for asking. And once again, don't invite me to talk. I talk too much. Sorry. Family, any other question? It's time to go to sleep, or at least eat something before going to sleep. I want to thank you for being here. I enjoy being part of IAFC. I love you guys with all my heart, and I can't wait for the border to open and we can gather. Not in October, we will never be able to gather in October again, but any other month, I want to see you guys. But if not, Jesus is coming soon.
Before everyone falls asleep, Pastor Adrian.
Yes, I know.